We are live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the February 27th, 2023 meeting of the University City Council to order at 6:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Clay,
Present.
Councilmember Klein,
Here.
Councilmember McMahon,
Here.
Councilmember Hales,
Here.
Councilmember Smotherson, Mayor Crowe.
Here. Before you, you have the agenda. Are there any changes to the proposed agenda for this evening? Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I would ask to add to the agenda item J2, being a public hearing on Bill 9501, and item J3 being a public hearing on Bill 9502. I would also recommend the tabling of M3 and M4. Those are all of the changes that I'm recommending.
So that is removing M2 and M3. Is that correct?
M3 and M4.
Okay, so Bill M3 is 9503 and M4 is 9504. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then adding J2 and J3.
That is correct.
Mr. Smotherson?
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Mayor Crowe, I just have a really quick question, and that is in reference to Patrick Fox's nomination for Parks Commission. If approved by council today, could there be a swearing in today? And I'm just kind of curious, is that possible? I don't know.
It's not on the agenda to,
No, and I understand that.
but he can be sworn in at any point in time after he has been duly appointed by the council.
And that's just all. I just
Yeah,
wanted to,
okay.
okay, that's fine. Thank you. That's.
So we have a motion made by Mr. Hales. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there any discussion on amending the agenda? Hearing then a motion, a vote, please. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We've now amended the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Motion made by Mr. Smotherson, seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We have no proclamations this evening. Before you have the minutes of February 13th, 2023, University City Police Substation. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Ms. Klein, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You have February 13th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. McMahon, seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor. I am nominating Patrick Fox for the Parks Commission to fill in that slot for the third ward.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You'll see before you that the Industrial Development Authority Board was sworn in via Zoom on February 24th, 2023. To those of you who have just walked in, we welcome you this evening, and this is the citizen participation portion of the evening. If anyone would like to speak to either an agenda or a non-agenda item, there are sign-up sheets right by the door. Please fill out placing the item you want to speak on or a non-agenda item, and then provide us with your name and address. We have one request to speak thus far this evening during this section of the agenda, and that is Mr. Tom Sullivan.
Tom Sullivan, 751 in Syracuse. At the February 13th meeting, 7 new members of the Industrial Development Authority were approved. Interesting how the authority just popped up and a new board was approved with little public notice. The 7th board member, Chris Blumenhorst, was not listed on the agenda and he needed to be. He was added on verbally by Mayor Crowe. That does not comply with the Sunshine Law. I have in the past noted a situation in Chesterfield where the name of a prosecuting attorney up for council approval was not listed on the agenda, but was approved anyway. Citizens sued and the court ruled in their favor and the city had to pay a fine plus legal fees. I would suggest the name be put on the next agenda for approval. You don't need any more trouble. There are still streetlights out in the city. There's an overhead light in the number 4 parking lot by Kingsland. In the same parking lot, there are 2 sidewalk lights out on one of the walkways that go through the lot. A street light is not working on Vernon, just west of Kingsland. A street light is out on Eastgate. 2 street lights are still out on Ferguson, north of Olive. Several street lights are out on Olive. A pedestrian or streetscape light is out on Olive, just east of Hanley. A street light is out on Midland Drive, north of Olive. Another light is out on Wellington, east of Midland Drive. A street light is out on Chamberlain, just east of Kingsland. Also at the Kingsland Park at Chamberlain and Kingsland, the wooden fence surrounding it is falling down in 2 different places. There's still a wire hanging down in the alley behind 758 Kingsland. It appears to be a telephone wire. The other day, it got caught up in the lid of the recycling bin. I have read where the city is wanting comments on changes to Metcalf Park. I hope the park is left alone. When a city makes, quote, improvements, it usually makes things worse. That's what happened with Eckerd Park. The playground was the most popular part of the park, but it was removed and apparently is not coming back. Now the park isn't used nearly as much. Metcalf also has a small playground. Also, Lewis Park continues to deteriorate. The fountain is falling apart and the rim around the pond continues to crumble. And it seems park benches in the various city parks could use some attention, either needing repair or painting. On Saturday, City Manager Rose presented his recommendations, our wish list, to the council concerning priorities for economic development, public safety, and other matters. I would suggest you first take care of the many matters at hand that need attention. Mr. Rose also did not mention the big problem that was always hold the city back, a school district that is among the worst in the area and continues to lose students. An editorial in the Post-Dispatch suggested that maybe the school district could combine with Clayton. That would be the best thing for you city students. Also, Mayor Crowe said the city cannot be faulted for the vacancies in Loop. But it's interesting that downtown Kirkwood and downtown Webster Groves are both doing very well. They don't have the vacancies that Loop has. Their downtowns are also more diverse. Maybe they also have better city governments. Thank you for listening to my comments.
That concludes the citizen participation part of the agenda this evening. We now move to the public hearings. We have 3 public hearings on the agenda. The first is for a liquor license. This public hearing will be opened at 6:37. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who has signed up to speak on this matter?
None at this time.
And do we have any public comments that we've received ahead of time?
No, sir.
Therefore, this public hearing will be closed at 6:37. We also have as item number J2, a public hearing on bill number 9501. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who has signed up to speak on this matter?
None at this time.
Do we have any written comments that we've received?
No, sir.
Having no written comments or anyone signed up to speak, this hearing was opened at 6:38 and it will be closed at 6:38. We now have item number J3, which is a public hearing on bill number 9501. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who has signed up to speak on this agenda item?
None at this time.
Do we have anyone or any written comments that you've received today?
No, sir.
Hearing none, this hearing was opened at 6:38 and closed at 6:38. You now have before you the consent agenda, item K, 1, 2, and 3. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Clay. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The consent agenda has been approved. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this item asks that you recognize the employees' years of service award, and I would ask Human Resources Director Amy Williams to lead this off. Ms. Williams, Mayor, if you would join me in.
Good evening, Mayor and Honorable City Council. Thank you again for allowing us to use this forum to recognize our esteemed employees' years of service. We have another group of good ones tonight, of course, and we hope to have our holiday party so that we can continue the pattern of that. We'll continue the tradition of allowing our first responders up first. So Chief Hampton, if you could come forward. And at least if your folks, there's a lot here in the back of the room, but if they are not here, at least we can allow them to be read into the official record. As you have some wonderful decades of service on your list this evening. So thank you for coming up. Chief Hampton.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Rose, and everyone else in the audience. Try to project my voice as loud as I can. I'm sorry, my voice is going out from this past weekend. But a lot of members that we want to recognize for their years of service and their continued dedication here to this community. There are a few that are not here, and we wish that they could be in attendance. Some are ill at this time, but we do send our prayers with them. Let's start with, and I'll call them up one at a time and also mention the years of service. First, we have the court bailiff and the court security today, Officer Joshua Mosley. Please come forward for 5 years of dedicated service to the community. Next, we have, and stay up for a picture, Joshua. And next, we have Jerry Davis Mitchell. Please come forward for 5 years of dedicated service to the community. Next, we have Officer Caleb Johnson for 5 years of dedicated service to the community. We'll jump from 5 years to 20 years with Officer Christopher Stark. Please come forward for your dedicated service. Next, we have a commander with over 20 years of service. And when we're speaking of the years of service, please understand that's an anniversary date that probably has been satisfied a long time ago. So Captain Frederick Lemons, please come forward with 20 years of service. Thank you. Next, we'll jump from 20 to 25 years. Officer Timothy Lay, please step forward with over 25 years of community dedicated service. And this is a homegrown University City native and a graduate of University City High School. Sergeant Jennifer Polsky McLean, please step forward with over 25 years of dedicated service. And lastly, I can tell you probably one of the most important employees over at the police department with over 30 years of dedicated service. My secretary, my executive secretary, Ms. Deanna Barres, please step forward. Good, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will allow you to get back wherever you need to go if needed, and we appreciate it, or you can stick around. But we will have Mr. Darren Girdler, Public Works, to come up and just read his names into the official record. Director Darren Girdler.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Councilman, and Mr. Rose. We have 3 tonight that we want to announce for our very hardworking departments in Public Works. And I'm not, I'm still new enough. I'll just mention their name. And we have a Michael Green for 5 years. Michael. And for 15 years, we have Ricky Chambers. Okay. And for 20 years, we have Walter Wilkins. All right. Walter's with our sanitation division. Yeah. Thank you.
One more. And this is for you to give out to. One more to give out for the evening under the finance department.
Jesus, he's been irritating. Just kidding. I am just really honored to recognize perhaps one of the hardest working people in our organization. And without him, none of us would be in the position of getting compensated. And so I want to recognize Keith Cole and all of the work that he does to keep our finances in order. Director Cole? Honorable Mayor and council members, this next item, item L2, asks that you consider an agreement with Gallup Partnership for employee engagement. And Human Resources Director Amy Smith will be presenting this item. Ms. Smith?
Thank you again, Honorable Mayor and Council. We'll get it set up here. My name is Amy Williams and I am the HR Director for University City, for the record. And we might have on the line one of our business solutions consultants from Gallup. I don't know, Ms. Reese, if she's been able to join us, but for any follow-up questions that you might have. Okay, and Lauren, if you're on the line, we are going to go ahead and get started.
What's her name? Lauren?
Lauren, yes, Mosser. She is Gallup's Business Solutions Consultant. But thank you. So we've known for years that exit interviews offer us a wealth of knowledge. Point it that way. Going forward, Raja. There you go. Thank you very much. Just needed your touch. Okay. We've known for years that exit interviews are a great way to gather information on employees' satisfaction, their wealth of knowledge, or mainly dissatisfaction during their time with the entity. But what if we started surveying employees before they left and before they got to their point? What if we surveyed them on their engagement while they were here before we got to that point? So why is engagement important? Engaged employees are highly involved, they're driven, they're innovative, they try new things, they do before being asked to do. They're going above and beyond, they're loyal, and most importantly, they stay. And so you just saw with a lot of the years of service, we do have a lot of employees staying, but the trend nationwide is not to stay. So we do want to try to get ahead of this. It's expensive to lose employees. I'm sure you've read all of the studies and articles, especially over COVID and beyond. But besides the financial losses, like the decrease in productivity during the transition between employees offboarding and onboarding, losing employees can be contagious. And that's one of the most dangerous things. And others may be consider leaving that hadn't considered it before once they start seeing their colleagues leave. There's also the knowledge gap issue that you might have, and then the potential for negative reputations to ensue about departments, divisions, or hopefully not our city if there's a lot of turnover. So a manager's role in engagement and why this relationship with Gallup will be very important and help University City. Employees have high expectations of their managers. Managers are some of the biggest drivers of the culture. And after decades of research, Gallup is a household name. They have surveyed over 37 million employees, and that's where this proposal comes from. Gallup knows how to quantify those responses to give our managers recommendations, not just the results, but recommendations for their everyday use. Here are the 12 foundational questions that we would propose to ask our employees for the next 3 years. On the left, on the right, it screams, or it helps us to synthesize what our employees are screaming depending on what the results are. It gives managers those tools to then use what they're saying and then guide their everyday actions. So why would we do this? We would hope to move the needle. These percentages right here in the middle, 32, 51, and 17, are some very common results. It might be where we start if we were to start today. And we have our senior executive team now in place for the most part, and we think it's a good time to start assessing where we are. We'd hope to then move down to that 70% engaged, 25% not engaged, and only 5% that are actively disengaged. They said you might have not even a third of your employees that are engaged right now, and that's a common stat. So next steps, I said this would be quick. This is really the last slide, but basically this is a 3-year partnership with Gallup to bring this household name into University City. They would not only provide the results, they would provide us with detailed ongoing meetings with our management team, whoever we deem appropriate. They would develop a communication strategy for all levels of our employees, depending on who we're speaking with, and outside employees as well, outside residents and those that we deem necessary as a team. And they would also provide annual opportunities for us to reflect and assess those wins. So it's always at the forefront of what we're trying to do here with University City in our strategic planning throughout all of our goals. And it's appropriate for every division, every team, every department. So I think one last slide. I'm happy to take any questions, but if you had any questions on who Gallup is, they've done a lot of work across the country, across the world.
Any questions from any members of council? Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Mr. Rose, I just have one quick question, and that is, and I'm not sure if Amy can answer it also, but with this company, with the results, how would we as the council, because the employees are strictly under your direction, how would we then get the results, or would we see that?
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Smotherson, I think that we can certainly provide you with information on the number of employees that end up leaving the organization for whatever reason. The intent, this is, as you know, the backdrop of trying to make sure that we do what we can to retain our employees and also educate those that, especially those that are going into a supervisory type role. So some of the information certainly would be available to you as a council, but also to the public.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe, and Director Williams. Thank you for your presentation. So I am an employee whose organization utilizes the Gallup tool, and I'll offer, for what it's worth, a couple of tips from an employee perspective who takes it and has those that they supervise who they want to take it as well. The communication about the why, again, from my experience, very critical, because it kind of can seem like another thing to do. It comes kind of in this form, this kind of form email. You may choose to do it differently, but it comes to us in a form email. And it kind of looks like just something else to do. So the real communication, and I think my organization did a good job of this, of why this is important and just why it's important and what it will lead to. The articulation of we're going to take this data and we're going to do things potentially differently as a result to create a better experience for you. So really connecting the activity of taking a survey and then having, the information go off into space where folks may not know what happens to it, really connecting it back once the data is processed, sharing that with the employees, and really taking action on it. From my perspective, we've been doing it for, I think we do it every other year for a few years now. And I think people have bought into it more because they've seen actually things different as a result of the data and a result of their efforts.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. McMahon. Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you, Mayor. And so I'm assuming the way you described it is that the employees will then be talking about their satisfaction issues that they have. That will be then given all the way up to Mr. Rose so that he can work with the department directors to implement strategies to alleviate any issues that come through the data.
Yes.
And if that's the process, and this kind of dovetails with what Mr. Smotherson was asking, will the directors also be asked those questions? Because wouldn't that data then be matriculated up to council? Because it would be kind of the same thing. There's kind of two systems here. And so we would want to be looking at things that we could impact that might help us evaluate one of our two employees as it relates to retention, let's say, of directors, will it be separated so we can do that? Or how would that work?
All will be assessed. I'm not sure if Lauren's on the line that can speak to that, but all employees will be assessed. I'm not sure if it's broken down. I would assume yes, but we can get back to you if Lauren is not able to answer.
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Wonderful. Yes, you are spot on. So every employee within the city will take the survey, and then we will define reporting variables or reporting groups. So we can break it down by different levels, including, the executive team, directors, and so forth. But we will have the ability to slice and dice the data by the variables that make the most sense to the city.
Customizable, it sounds like.
Correct.
Mr. Hales.
Thank you. My question is kind of following Steve's. We don't, but the city manager and directors, I assume, will get the information. They'll learn about, where there are strengths and where there are weaknesses. Does the consultant provide any guidance or strategy as far as what needs to happen to make improvements? Is that part of this process?
Yes, and Lauren, you can speak to this as well if you have anything to add on, but they proposed it. They have a very detailed proposal where it talks about recommendations, not just results. That's one of their key themes throughout the multi-page proposal. But Lauren, I don't know if you could speak any more to that of what's provided to the executive team.
You bet. So within the platform that the survey is actually taken on is Gallup Access. And Gallup Access is an advice and analytics platform. So every manager or leader within the city can go in, and they will actually have advice and analytics tailored to their direct team's data to take a look at the lowest and highest ranking items for your direct team. And those advice and analytics have very specific action items to take, as well as, of course, there will be a partnership with Gallup to ensure that those action items are really moving the needle forward.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hale, seconded by Ms. Klein. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this next item asks that you consider an item that would enable us to advance the repair of the electrical system for Centennial Commons and the pool. We have Director Dunkel that will be presenting this item. Mr. Dunkel, and my apologies to Ms. Williams for getting her name wrong.
Mayor Crowe, members of the council, in your packet tonight, you had two proposals from Reinhold Electric on the electrical upgrades to Centennial Commons and the pool that were damaged by the floods back in July. And looking at these proposals and looking for the reason that we want to do these, to get the pool and Centennial Commons back up and running, they have a shared electrical system from the main panels on throughout. So that's why you don't see a breakdown between the two. It is a sum for one because you can't do one without doing the other with the panels. The differences into the two prices are mainly timeline. Right now, the supply chain is pretty bogged down on certain components. On the one proposal, as of last week, when this proposal was given to us, it looked like we could get the main panels in a couple of weeks. The other proposal, it could be 12 to 24 weeks to be able to get it. And so we are bringing forward and recommending to go with the first proposal so that we could get moving and get the pool open, for this summer. Now, just remind you, this isn't the only work that needs to get done to get the pool open, but this is the main component to start that process.
Are there questions of Mr. Dunkel on this matter? Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Mr. Dunkel, just a very quick question in that is, what does that mean in reference to the lobby of the pool? Is that going to allow you to receive and have people come in and out through the lobby of the pool if in fact the electrical is fixed? Or are there other issues with the lobby of the pool? Because I don't know what the conditions are.
There's multiple issues with the pool as well as Centennial Commons itself. Electrical is the biggest issue. That's where it all starts from. But other things that have to be done in order for the pool open this summer, there are some drywall issues that need to be taken care of. There's some flooring, the front desk in the lobby needs to be repaired. There's some computer equipment that goes with the ID machines, that kind of stuff. And then the fencing surrounding the pool needs to be repaired or replaced. But this is the biggest hurdle to get moving forward with.
Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I believe that there were some questions regarding our submittals. And if it's acceptable to you, I would ask for Finance Director to join Mr. Dunkel and respond and provide you with a brief update on those submittals, as well as respond to any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Honorable Mayor, members of council. To date, just to recap, we have 8 projects that we have submitted for reimbursement. The one is the Firehouse overtime, Firehouse 1 building, citywide debris removal, parks maintenance, or the citywide building damage, the citywide park damage, and Centennial Commons recreational facility, and University City vehicles, and then the University City Public Library. And to date, we've submitted all the projects to FEMA except for the vehicles. We're still waiting for the insurance adjusters to do their assessment on all the vehicles. We have a follow-up meeting, I believe in 2 weeks for them. FEMA needs the insurance adjuster's report before they can proceed on evaluating all the vehicles that were lost. So, the projects that have been submitted, they're all in the stage, they're in the review stage by the CRC, and the CRC stands for Consolidated Resource Center, and that is a division of FEMA. And their process consists of just the assurance, compliance, making sure all the insurance claims have been submitted and filed properly. And then once those projects get validated by FEMA, then that goes to SEMA. And then SEMA is the state part. Then they do their review. And then once SEMA reviews and validates, then that's when SEMA would then issue a reimbursement check. There's no guarantee that we'll get reimbursement, but from my understanding, once the project gets obligated, then that's when they would get some type of reimbursement. But again, there's no guarantee. But that's kind of how the process and but to date, all the projects have been submitted to FEMA except for the vehicles.
Any questions of either of these directors?
Mayor, I did want to just ask Mr. Cole so we can place some information on the record regarding process. And there had been some discussion about whether we could simply proceed with our repairs and get reimbursed. And I know, Mr. Cole, that you talked with FEMA representatives and about that very issue. Is there any guarantee that we would get reimbursed if we proceeded with our repairs without getting their approval?
Yeah, there's no guarantee that we would get reimbursed. It's just we're in the hands to FEMA, and FEMA would be makes the final decision.
Okay, thank you.
So from the floor, is there a motion to approve? I'm assuming we had two different quotes in our package. Is there a motion to approve I think the one that is recommended by the staff to have the expedited work done at Centennial Commons? Is there a motion from the body? Motion made by Ms. Klein, seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll now move forward to the unfinished business section of the agenda. We have before you Bill number 9501. Madam Clerk, may we have the second reading?
Bill 9501, an ordinance amending section 400.270 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the zoning review procedure for conditional uses by amending subsection D.1 thereof relating to city council action.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9501, an ordinance amending section 400.2700 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the zoning review procedure for conditional uses by amending subsection D.1 thereof relating to city council action.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hale, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Klein. Councilmember McMahon.
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson. Councilmember Clay.
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill has passed. We're now going to move to bill number 9502. Do we want it read or amend it first?
Amend it first, please.
I'll call on City Attorney Mulligan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Staff recommends an amendment to this bill. The background is in the city council cover memo, but essentially there are two medical marijuana facilities operating in our community. They both meet the 500-foot buffer requirement under current ordinance number 7102. That is the buffer distance between a facility and an existing school, daycare center, or church. Missouri voters approved Constitutional Amendment 3, which established a different measurement method for determining that 500-foot buffer. As a result of that amendment, the bill which adopts that new method leaves one of the medical marijuana facilities 490 feet within a church, that being one at 6800 Washington. So the facility in the loop at 6662 Delmar would be 490 feet from that church, and therefore would not be in compliance with this bill if council passes it. So what staff recommended, and I concur, is that there be a new section 2 in this bill, and that section would read as follows. The buffer requirement in section 400.1495.A.1 shall not apply to any medical marijuana dispensary lawfully operating under a conditional use permit as of the effective date of this ordinance, and any such facility may convert to a comprehensive marijuana dispensary facility at the same location if the facility meets all other requirements of this ordinance. So that would be the new section 2. The existing section 2 would be renumbered section 3. So if council's inclined, if we could have an emotion to add that new section 2 to Bill 9502.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a discussion? The only question I have is that the church at 6800 Washington closed. Unless is that the Methodist Church?
Well,
Oh, is that Trinity? Is that, okay, I apologize. That one has not closed. Sorry, Alita. Okay, so there's a motion and there's a motion to amend and a second. Does Laurent need to read anything at this point in time? John, are we just moving forward with just the amendment?
Yeah, you can just, if there's a vote on the amendment, doesn't have to be roll
Okay.
call.
Okay, there's a motion before you to amend Bill number 9502. There's been a second. Any further discussion with hopefully people knowing which address for which church? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now before you have Bill number 9502 as amended. Madam Clerk, would you give us the second reading?
Bill 9502, an ordinance amending section 400.030, 400.510, 400.570, 400.620, 400.630, and 400.1495 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri relating to zoning, so as to conform to Missouri's Constitution, Article 14, provisions related to marijuana facilities as approved by voters on November 8th, 2022.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9502, an ordinance amending sections 400.030, 400.510, 400.570, 400.620, 400.630, and 400.1495 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri relating to zoning, so as to conform to Missouri Constitution, Article 14, provisions related to marijuana facilities as approved by voters on November 8th, 2022.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hales. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Klein. Is there a discussion? Hearing the Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales,
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Councilmember Klein, Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill is passed. We'll now move to Bill number 9505. Madam Clerk.
Honorable Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to place some information on the record regarding bills 9503 and 9504.
Sure.
It is my intention to request a special meeting with the mayor and council for March the 6th to consider those bills.
Good. Thank you very much. We now have Bill number 9505. Madam Clerk, may we have the second reading?
Bill 9505, an ordinance approving a final development plan for Lot C and Common Ground 1 of the proposed marketed Olive Development Plat 4.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9505, an ordinance approving a final development plan for Lot C and Common Ground 1 of the proposed marketed olive development, Plat 4.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. McMahon. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Hales,
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill is passed. We now move to Bill number 9506. May we have the second reading?
Bill 9506, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of property known as Lot 5 of Marketed Olive, Plat 3, from IC Industrial Commercial District to PD Planned Development Commercial District, PD-C.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9506, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of property known as Lot 5 of Marketed Olive, Plat 3, from IC Industrial Commercial District to PD Planned Development Commercial District, PD-C.
Is there a motion to approve? Made by Mr. McMahon, seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill is passed. Bill number 9507. May we have the second reading?
Bill 9507, an ordinance approving a final plat for major subdivision of a tract of land to be known as Marketed Olive, Plat 3.
We have the third reading.
Bill 9507, an ordinance approving a final plat for a major subdivision of a tract of land to be known as Marketed Olive, Plat 3.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. McMahon, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Clay.
Aye.
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson, Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill has passed. Bill number 9508. May we have the second reading?
Bill 9508, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of properties at 8637, 8638, and 8641 Mayflower Court from SR Single Family Residential District to PA Public Activity District.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9508, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of properties at 8637, 8638, and 8641 Mayflower Court from SR Single Family Residential District to PA Public Activity District.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there discussion? Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Very quickly, if you could explain why just those addresses in Mayflower Court, so that we're all clear on why those three addresses alone are being rezoned.
Mayor Pro Tem Smotherson, I believe we have a representative from the development who can likely address those questions.
You can hit the green button at the bottom, Mr. Hutkin, and give your name and address. That would be appreciated.
David Hutkin with Hutkin Properties Group, 10829 Olive Boulevard, St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you for your question, Councilmember Smotherson. The reason for the rezoning of just these three homes at this particular time is to accommodate the need to provide a 50-foot buffer between our commercial project and what will eventually become our multifamily project. But in the meantime, in order to move this forward at this time, we needed to provide that buffer to meet the city code.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Rose, any questions? Any other questions? Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye, the bill is passed. We'll now move forward to the second part of the city manager's report. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor, this agenda item asks that you consider CUP 23-01 application for a conditional use permit for a comprehensive marijuana dispensary facility at 6662 Delmar Boulevard, Suite A. We have Dr. Wagner that is here to present this item. Dr. Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Good evening, everybody. CUP 23-01 is a application for a conditional use permit for a comprehensive marijuana dispensary facility at 6662 Delmar Boulevard, Suite A. Jane's Dispensary that was approved in the as Mr. Mulligan pointed out, there was a one change to the text amendment. And with that, everything is compliant with the application. So be happy to take any questions.
Before questions, is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there any discussion or questions of Dr. Wagner? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this next item, 5, asks that you consider conditional use permit CUP 23-02 application for a conditional use permit for a comprehensive marijuana dispensary facility at 7555 Olive Boulevard. It is my understanding that the owner of that dispensary and his representatives are here at the meeting and would like to address the city council.
Whomever would like to speak first, please come forward, give your name and address, and we'll then take you in order.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jamie Mansfield, and I'm an attorney with Armstrong Teasdale. My address is 7700 Forsyth Boulevard, Suite 1800 in Clayton, Missouri. I represent Chris Chesley of Starbuds this evening, and I assisted Chris in filing the application for the amendment of a CUP to authorize the sale of recreational marijuana pursuant to your text amendment just passed earlier this evening. I was present and presented at the Planning Commission hearing last Wednesday on February 22nd, where staff report recommended approval of the CUP application were both taken up and approved by the commission 7-0 that evening. When I appeared at that hearing, I had no specific knowledge as to any business decision that was made to commence recreational sales. But what I can tell you that is when Commissioner Holly, immediately preceding the vote, told me to tell my client that he cannot dispense recreational marijuana until this hearing tonight, that as soon as I heard that, I spoke with my client and learned that in fact sales were commenced at that site because his license did convert with the state earlier in the month, but that upon my recommendation and a very good discussion with him, he would cease sales immediately, to which he did until this evening in this discussion. What transpired, in my opinion, and I don't want to speak for Chris because he will speak earlier here, is just a very unfortunate misunderstanding that I hope that we can tell you guys tonight that was caused neither by the license or any local government in the state of Missouri. And that's literally here that the state gave every local municipality a mere 60 days to get its act together and get its affairs in order. What happened after this adult passage of the vote is exactly almost a mirror image of what happened in the medical marijuana back in 2019. And that is that cities scrambled and cities issued zoning verification letters, even without text amendments in place, because the applicants needed them and the cities were working so hard and hand in hand to get something accomplished in a short amount of time because of a constitutional mandate. I have been in communication with countless other governments across the state located in many different jurisdictions, from running from Kansas City to Joplin to Independence, Missouri, to local governments here in the St. Louis area. And just like University City, countless of other local governments passed an ordinance stating that it wanted to place a vote on the ballot to tax the use for additional funds to come into the city's coffer. It initiated text amendments to their code to strike the word medical and replace it with comprehensive. It outlined a vehicle for obtaining written approval, such as an expanded occupancy permit or a new business license that you can file with the state that's separate and apart from the medical license that they receive locally, to the tune of, if it's a retail sales and you're compliant with the state's rules and regulations from DHSS, you pay an additional $2,000, you get this license, right? So they almost operated almost as two separate independent vehicles in which to get the written approval from the local government. There was also a case of amending your CUP. And even though the text amendments in many of those local jurisdictions and many of the amendments to the CUP would not be issued in time of the conversion of the license, the cities were choosing, whether informally or formally on the record, not to require any of these licensees to cease sales, because the cities already knew that it wanted the use. It already decided that it wanted to tax the use. It was mandated to have the use by the Constitution. And it took the position that requiring cessation of sales, even in an interim period, would put the licensee and this market and those tax sales in a very precarious situation, because those customers would no longer be frequenting any of these establishments and they might lose the base. I don't want to, I'm just saying this and globally here too, is that, those licensees and many other jurisdictions across the state working with their local governments that were acting almost in mirror image of what University City was doing, made the decision to, as long as you follow the process and get the paperwork in and be here and prove that you're a good citizen for the past since 2019 when you were here, that, we would approve you as you move through, right? I mean, because the stringent standards that are in place for any one of these facilities, I mean, I was in on the application stage and these things were moving mountains and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get in the queue. And they were highly coveted. And, I'll let Chris speak for himself, but they take this position very, very seriously. And I wanted to, state here with you guys tonight that as I sat in the Planning Commission meeting before Commissioner Hartz or Holly even spoke, just how much I appreciated that the city was getting this amendment in the books and allowing us a vehicle in which to proceed simultaneously with this text amendment, such as a CUP issuing shortly thereafter. On behalf of myself, for any part of this misunderstanding that existed here there's no ill intent. And I hope that it's my sincere hope tonight that you'll hear from Chris that there was no malintent in position here. He's been a great person in this community, wants to continue to be a great person in this community, has done a lot for this community and his employees there at the site. I'll let him speak, but again, I just wanted to make sure that you heard from me tonight, this presentation. And I just, again, want to thank you so much for moving mountains essentially on something that is very difficult to navigate in a short amount of time by the state giving us this opportunity. So with that, I'll let Chris speak. And if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me speak. I would like to give a little bit of insight.
May we have your name and address, please?
Sorry, Chris Chesley, 1519 Tower Grove Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri. One of the people that own the dispensary at 7555 Olive Boulevard, known as Starbuds. I'm here to give you a little bit of insight on exactly what happened. As I've talked with most of you back in December, I told you guys that I knew that some of the language was going to have to be updated. What I did not understand is that after the January 25th Planning and Zoning meeting, where they agreed to update the ordinance, that I thought that that process was over. That was a grave misunderstanding on my part. And I also want to apologize for not fully understanding the process. If you guys have any questions, I would like to answer them.
Mr. Hales.
I appreciate the clarification. I think the place where we find all of ourselves today is not a comfortable one, because I don't think I don't think this process was initially going to be very challenging at all. So I appreciate your perspective in those comments. I do want to, and I did listen to the December 12th meeting, and just to give you my perspective, and I think it's probably shared to some degree. In that meeting, you spoke and you said, at the last trade association, we were told by the state attorney that represents the medical marijuana department and private counsel that you guys, meaning the council, most likely need to amend your ordinance before we would be allowed to start selling recreational. You then went on to say, and that was a direct quote. You then went on to say, quote, so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. We were told that's going to have, that it's going to have to say recreational and medical marijuana sales before we would be able to start. Now, I'm also liaison to the Plan Commission, and I'm always thrilled when one or more of them shows up for a meeting, which we have two here tonight. And the amount of work that they put in is extraordinary. And it was very upsetting to get phone calls after the Wednesday meeting, which I was not able to attend. I listened to the meeting in its entirety this morning, the audio, who were very frustrated. I mean, they put in a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of work. I did appreciate the comments from your counsel to the commission, that that advice had been shared with you. But I think this is just a really unfortunate situation, and it's caused consternation within our community. I've heard from people who are upset that you began selling before, as you stated, you would be allowed to start. And I've heard from others in the community who read the sign on the door that the city council had failed to act. And so I just want to run down briefly a timeline, because you made that comment about the ordinance needed to be changed on December 12th. There was not a plan commission meeting until January 25th. The ordinance was put together by staff who put a great deal of time and effort into this too. In just 35 days, 40 days, whatever it was, 30 some days, a draft amendment was before the plan commission. Now, for anybody who's followed any of these bills, and all 6 of them tonight went through plan commission that we just approved, that is warp speed. I mean, that is truly warp speed for it to get to that point. Following that meeting, it went to the first February meeting, regular council meeting for introduction, and now it was here tonight and passed. So the notion, and I've heard it around town, and I think the sign on the door certainly reflected that. We are not the first part of the process. We are the last part of the process, and staff and the commission members work to make that an incredibly fast process. This all could have been avoided if on November 9th, you contacted the city and said, hey, we want to be ready to go on February 6th, or what turned out to be February 3rd, Friday. It's not the role of, in my opinion, it's not the role of staff, it's not the role of the commission members, and it's not the role of us to change our code by a deadline when, frankly, you know, the odds are pretty slim. But there are some dispensaries that don't get both. And I read an article today about that. We didn't know we were going to have applications. We thought it was probably likely. But when you look at these 6 bills, that's what the Plan Commission and the staff had been working on. And as one of the developers for many of those bills is sitting here tonight, they have been very proactive through this whole process. And that's been a very challenging, long, complicated process. But they have been in regular communication. There has been very little, if any, misunderstandings through what is a much more complicated endeavor. So thank you.
Can I speak to about the sign on the door? I greatly apologize about that. That was made up by one of the shift leads when they found out that that we were going to stop selling recreationally. I had not seen that and wasn't even made aware of it till today. When I found out about it, I was upset. I did call up there and I had them change that sign. So I apologize.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Just so I'm clear on the timeline, the articulation of certain things, to your counsel, and forgive me, I don't.
Jamie, yes, no.
Ms. Mansfield, when did you alert your client that he should not be selling until the amendment was passed? Whereabouts did that happen?
Right after the hearing on the 22nd. And that is when I told him, when I heard from Council Member Holly, that I should tell my client that.
Okay, and did sales of recreational cease at that point?
I called him. He had at that point was the place shut down, and then the next morning, well, we called. Sorry, we talked the next morning. But yes, that's when you shut down.
Yes.
Yeah.
After that meeting, I started calling around to some people that I know at other municipalities and legal counsel because I was really confused on what was going on. Directly after about a 45-minute phone call with another attorney that I know that has worked in other municipalities, they completely agreed that I should shut down. And so afterwards, I called up there to, I believe it was around 9 o'clock or maybe a little after, and told them that they needed to put a sign up and cease recreational sales.
So not 9 o'clock that the morning, the Thursday morning, or that evening?
That night. It was after the planning and zoning meeting, which went a little long. I believe it ended around 8:30.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, your statement is you stopped, your establishment stopped selling recreational marijuana roughly around 9 a.m. So they would not have been selling that on
9
Thursday.
a.m.,
9 p.m.
Yes.
So they would not have been selling that the following Thursday, the next day, correct?
I was out of town on Thursday, so I did call the lead manager and told them that they should stop. Yes, correct.
Okay, so and so they would have stopped per your instruction that Wednesday.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Unless I am confused on what date it was, but yes, that's what I recall.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Crowe, at this time, I would like to make a motion to table CUP 2302 application for conditional use permit for a comprehensive marijuana dispensary facility at 755 Olive Boulevard.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there discussion? I do think that what I would like to say or ask a question of is, I think I've been on the council now 17 years. And I'm trying to discern how we came from a process where, in my mind, the business that wants to have a CUP leads a process for a CUP. And at some point in time, you receive a lectured phone call from the business owner that I need to call special meetings of citizen volunteers because University City isn't doing the same good job that Fenton is. And I'm trying to determine how we get from a point where Ms. Mansfield says we moved mountains to the business owner who says you're not doing your job. And I also believe that as a person who has many employees in many different cities, I am responsible for every action every employee takes in every location I have. I enforce it, I stand up for it, and we make a mistake, we make changes.
You know, Mayor Crowe, if I may too, as well. I've spoken with Chris a lot over the past couple days, and what I hope I can convey to the council in this regard is that with any decision for this business and for Chris specifically, and again, not to speak for him too, though, but I've been on the ground level of the applicants in 2019 that moved for these medical marijuana licenses. And they care about them immensely. They worked very hard to get them. The state awarded those not only because they met the bare minimum of what was required, but because they went above and beyond. And I think a lot of this is the process of how much everybody was put behind the 8 ball, including the good stewards of this city, including the applicants. And a lot of it has caused, and I will say on behalf of many other licensees that I represent in this gray area that exists right now between the state saying something from on high and how that filters its way through the community is a process of a lot of stress and communication and trying to come together and do this in a manner that works well for everybody. I know I heard from Chris and he can speak to this too, is that to combat maybe what those comments that he made to you earlier, though, is that Chris kind of maybe the talk is something different, but the walk is adopting the bus stop and cleaning that up. I mean, he cares immensely about this community. I care immensely about me being in front of you guys regularly. I care about that. I know what you guys do. I know what the planning commission does as well and how hard that job is too, because I've seen it and I've lived it on large developments all the way to the smallest development. And I can sit up here and tell you guys the same thing, that what I hear from Chris is coming from a place of this will bury him. The timing creates a customer base. The brand and loyalty creates a customer base that if it ceases, and the decision that he did make to do that and will continue to make it for as long as this table is, which I hope will not be too terribly long-lived, is that he's losing out. And it was never to spite. It was never any of that nature too. It came from a place of what I understand, hearing him on the phone just today, talking about how much he's caring about cleaning up the community, is coming from a place of, I've seen it with developers. They got lots of money on the line. They've got lots of hope. They've got lots of employees and they're stressed about it. So, I mean, I'll let Chris state that too, but that's what I heard today. And in working with many developers, he's no different than what I've seen before.
Mayor Crowe, I completely agree with you. I am going to completely take responsibility for what happened and apologize. And as a business owner, I do take responsibility when things don't go right. And like I said, I'm here to apologize to the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission for me not understanding the entire process. I mean, there's not much more I can say except that I do apologize, and my misunderstanding was a grave mistake.
Mr. McMahon.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming today and discussing the issues that we have here. So I'm kind of going a little bit higher level than some of the discussions, and I don't want to sound like I'm just trying to beat on you while you're here. But part of the industry that you're in is a highly regulated and an industry that's taken a long time to get where it is. There have been questions about who are these folks going to be that are in our neighborhood dispensing something that has over time been a product that has different connotations, beliefs. What does it bring to our communities? So having your understanding that you are the representative for a new way of looking at this, that carries a big weight, and you want to be that face. What troubles me, and I think your attorney had mentioned this twice, is that part of the issue is capturing the base early. And what troubles me a little is I also noticed that Ms. Mansfield represents Jane Dispensary as well. I don't think we had this problem with them. They weren't capturing a base before their CUP. That would be a phone call I wouldn't want to have to my other client while I'm representing this client. And that's a phone call I would suggest you might want to make to folks in this industry with you to say, hey, we're both in U City. We're both members of the community. And I made a big mistake because I may have been taking your base while you sat there and followed the rules. And that's why I'm saying this is a higher level. It's about a process that we're trying to say, we're all just trying to follow the rules here and not to our advantage, but just to get this done.
Yeah.
So those are two calls. One I wouldn't want to make as an attorney, and one as a friend of probably these folks down the street that you might want to make.
Yes, and I did try to reach out to someone. I was under or recently heard that they were transferring the ownership. And I reached out to someone that had recently worked for them and was a higher up manager to see what they were doing, and I was not able to get a response. So I did try to reach out to who I thought was still with that company to see what was going on. But then the state also jumped the gun quite a few days early. I was planning on reaching out to them, figuring out who else to reach out to over the weekend. Then Thursday afternoon, I got an email from the state saying that they were going to start sales that Friday instead of Monday. And so reaching out to them fell by the wayside because things that we were planning to do to get ready sped up a lot. I had less than 12 hours, which I thought I had an entire weekend.
Mr. Hales.
Thank you. I do have two more questions, and I really, as Steve said, this is not about beating you up, and I don't want to belabor the point, but from the comments that you made that I thought were quite clear that I read earlier about when it could start, did anyone from this city say, oh, you can go ahead and start selling and we'll work out the details later?
I was under the impression that at the P and Z meeting, when they originally passed it on January 25th, the amended text, that was the process that we had been waiting for. Because I believe when I originally spoke, I spoke about the text needing to be updated. And I mistakenly thought that was that meeting.
Okay, and in listening to the meeting this morning, Chairwoman Holly stated, were you on the meeting on the call? Mr. Chesley?
Yes, I was trying to pay as much attention as I could to that.
When she reads the motion, it is always a motion to make a recommendation to council for approval. It was clear in that meeting. And then the other question, I mean, I'm assuming from what Ms. Mansfield said at the Wednesday Plan Commission meeting that at no point you didn't notify them of any other instruction, legal instruction based on those comments Wednesday, right? Nothing had changed in terms of the process.
Well, yeah, no, and not the process, but as I was stating earlier, that many people in the industry are discussing with other municipalities and local around with licensees, and that University City, for all intents and purposes, Chris and I did not connect. I filed the CUP. I appeared at the hearing. Whether or not the business decision was made to commence sales was something that I was not aware of. However, I will say that there are several licensees in different jurisdictions that are at the exact same place that you guys are in right now. And what they're doing is finding a different vehicle or stating formally on the record that says, so long as you're compliant with your current CUP, Ellisville is one of those, right? Get in the queue, file your CUP, make sure you file it, get it within 120 days of us passing this text amendment, and you're free to go. These are things that as an industry getting together and hearing, which I'm sure was, again, the misunderstanding of what it is right now, that University City is, while the current ordinance to tax the use on January 9th, coupled with the positive P and Z hearing, was just, again, right, wrong, or indifferent, very indicative of what many other municipalities were doing that want this use and want to make sure that these guys survive this interim period. And so that's that comment. Again, I was trying my best to state that I didn't know what was happening, but clearly I would take Mrs. Holly's comment back to my client, which I did, and my client did see sales.
Thank you for that. So, I mean, this is what you said to the plan commission. I don't know that all of my colleagues have heard it, but when asked and you answered, you said, our advice to our client has been to follow the law, get local approvals. We've been in contact trying to work with University City to move forward with the text amendment. We're very much appreciative of the expedience in which you guys have done so in the process and letting us run this CUP concurrently. And you went on again and mentioned the expediency of the process, but that's just the point I want to make, that I'm just not understanding how the perspective of the process from December to last week changed. I hear what you say about misunderstanding that, but I did want to say that. And also, Ms. Reese, I would like those two quotes to be in the minutes verbatim, please.
Ms. Klein.
Yeah, I just want to say, I do think that there have been a lot of really unfortunate misunderstandings and communications. I would like to see your company retract to your customers the misinformation about the city's process that was given, because I think that, you know, there's that automatic reaction where there's a resentment toward the city for not, you know, for causing trouble. And I do want to see that retracted.
Absolutely. We definitely will. I will put up a sign that it was on me that misunderstood what was going on, and the city has done everything that has been asked to do.
Okay, thank you. And also, I mean, I do think that there's a consensus that the non-compliance should have a consequence. I think there's a consensus amongst the council. I don't think that we should delay the CUP, because I know that you've already hired extra employees and I don't want to see them hurt.
15 extra.
Yeah. And
Any delay would cause hopefully only a short layoff.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that there are people that had no part in this decision that are going to be affected, that I don't want to see that happen. I think also, you know, in terms of our tax base, and I do think that there's a huge customer base in this business, enough to go around for all of these dispensaries. I don't know if there was a need to, you know, be proactive. I think that was an unfortunate thing because it's caused a lack of trust. You know, I think that this relationship's gonna have to be rebuilt. But I'd like to give you the chance to do that. So you know.
Thank you.
I take that very seriously as well.
Anything else, Ms. Klein? Mr. Clay.
Oh.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. And I'll be brief. Your dispensary, sir, is in the 3rd ward, which is the ward I have the privilege of representing along with Councilmember Smotherson. When we go through a process with those who are purveyors of intoxicants, liquor, marijuana, liquor in particular goes through a very exhaustive process, the liquor license process. We had a public hearing for that this evening. We go through that process because we recognize intoxicants are a different category of product. It's not like selling an iPad or envelopes or pens or pencils. It's a unique category of substance. And so in our liquor license process, which is well worn, we do background checks. We do all sorts of things. And I know you went through that process in order to get your license initially. But it is something that we scrutinize liquor licenses. There are certain mandates that they must meet on an ongoing basis. We want them to act responsibly. because of the nature of the substance that they are purveying. We ask no different of you. We ask no different of Jane. We ask no different of any other purveyor that would come into our community who is dealing in intoxicants. So to the point of trust, I think there does have to be trust built, particularly for those who live in the third ward, because that is where you are. And I'll end with this. I know you have both referenced other municipalities. When I was a young man, young boy, in fact, I would say to my mother, well, down the street, my friend Tommy, well, he can do X, Y, Z. I was quickly disabused of the notion that the rules down the street at Tommy's house were the rules in Lois Clay's house. You're in University City. These are the rules that you need to follow. I respect Ellisville and Warrenton and Oakville and all the other municipalities, but I represent University City. And this is where I'm concerned.
You have before you a motion to table. Is there any further discussion? Mr. McMahon?
If with a motion to table, is it to a date certain? When we say we're tabling it, does it just, how does it
Position for
come
the next
back?
meeting? It'd be placed back on the agenda either by staff or by a member of council. Mr. Rose, anything else on? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. We'll now move forward with new business bill number 9509. Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading?
Bill 9509, an ordinance approving a parcel development agreement in connection with the Olive Boulevard Commercial Corridor and Residential Conservation Redevelopment Plan.
Thank you very much. We'll now move forward to council reports and business. I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Thank you, Ms. Reese. Councilmember Smotherson has introduced. Handy like a pocket on a shirt, Larry. Handy, handy, handy. Any reports for any commission, for any commissions to whom anyone liaises? Hearing none, we will move forward to citizen participation. We have one request to speak, Ms. Aaron Ginsburg.
Honorable Mayor, council members and city manager, my name is Erin Ginsburg. I live at 430 West Point Court. And last week, U-City's TNR volunteers trapped and vetted 3 cats from U-City's third ward at no cost to U-City's taxpayers. Our volunteers returned 1 cat to its home colony, and the other 2 cats were so friendly, we were able to successfully network them into rescue. U-City's TNR volunteers look forward to city staff training the code compliance team on best practices for feeding community cats. And we sincerely hope this prevents further misunderstandings between our volunteers and code compliance officers. Thanks for your service to our community.
I don't believe we have any other requests to speak. Are there any council comments this evening? Mr. Hales?
Just one briefly. I know this came up in the last meeting. I'd like to thank the city manager and our public works director, Mr. Girdler, for somehow managing to get MSD to agree to come out and clean their drainage ditch.
Honorable Mayor, Councilman Ray, I'll give all the credit to our new public works director, Mr. Girdler. And I'll leave it at that because there may be other discussions I want to have with as well on that issue.
Are there any, Mr. Clay?
Very quickly, Mayor, thank you. Just wanted to note, Officer Starks, who was honored here for 20 years of service. I first met Chris Starks when we were camp counselors at University City Day Camp. well, more than 20 years ago, put it that way. So it was great to see him honored in his continued service to the University City community.
This is a trip down memory lane for Mr. Clay this evening. We've gone from childhood all the way through this evening. It's kind of nice. Ms. Reese, do we have a request to speak? Okay. John, can you get that to me? Okay, well. All right, I believe as it, Sam, would you like to come up and speak, please, and give your name and address, and you push the button at the bottom. And there's a time limit of 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna be short. This is a real quick question. We received this amendment map of the, I guess the development right at Olive that backs up to Spoon Drive on the south end. And it ends right at, well, actually almost our cul-de-sac at Spoon Drive. And it says that we're within 500 feet of the proposed project site. I guess my question is, are they intended in some time in the future moving beyond that or not?
We have your name and address. Normally, there's not an engagement with the citizen. The city manager will have someone from the staff contact you and get back to you with an answer to your question.
Appreciate it.
And I think they may even be able to do that later on this evening before you head out.
Thank you.
I think Dr. Wagner is standing in the back. Are there any other council comments? So my only council comment is I wanted to wish Councilmember Smotherson and his wife a happy anniversary. I saw that was all over social media. So congratulations to you. Congratulations very much. And I don't believe we're going into close. Am I right? There is no. So is there a motion to adjourn this evening? Motion made by Mr. Hale, seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.